Hey guys, how's it going? So UFC 322 wrapped up, and with the conclusion of this card, I'm going to go through the main card and get both the winners and losers and give you my next matchups for each of the fighters, so we'll get straight into it. And now onto the main card opener, the loser of this fight, Beneil Dariush. Not a great showing from him here. He got knocked out 16 seconds into the fight, nasty right hook from Benoit. Did find success very early on with the leg kicks, but ultimately just couldn't really get much off before being finished pretty badly as well. Pretty nasty KO. And even before that, on the scales, he looked really bad. He missed weight on top of that. Recently, his performances really haven't been what I'd expect them to be from sort of Beneil in his prime. I think he is entering the end point of his career and probably has maybe 1 or 2 fights left in him. And with a loss and moving towards sort of that bottom 15 area, I think the next fight for him will be an up-and-comer within the division, where I think the next best matchup for him would be the winner of Grant Dawson versus Manuel Torres. Manuel Torres a little less so. I don't really like the idea of him fighting another knockout artist so quickly after this Benoit loss. But either way, that would be a pretty good way to get Manuel Torres' name up towards those 15 and then towards the 10-ish rankings. And Grant Dawson, that's the more favourable matchup for me. I think that one's actually pretty approachable for someone like Beneil Dariush. Grant Dawson currently 14th ranked. Beneil Dariush, when the new rankings come out, will be similarly placed, maybe 11th or 12th. And I think this is a good matchup for both of them. Grant Dawson's very solid, well-rounded, so is Beneil Dariush. Dawson's also been grinding out in those bottom 15s, and it would be a nice little step up for him with an opponent like Dariush if he can pull off a win over Manuel Torres. And ultimately, I just don't really see many other options for Beneil Dariush. So that's my next matchup for him, and we'll move on to the winner of that fight. Benoit Denis, a really nasty finish. 16 seconds in, puts the lights out on Beneil Dariush. Has racked up a good win streak recently. Karl Prepolek, Mauricio Huffy in a really surprising win. And now a 16-second knockout that honestly reminded me of his come-up within the UFC. These really nasty first-round finishes. Ran into Poirier, got kind of stopped in his tracks. Moicano loss also not great, but recently he's picked up 3 really solid wins, seems to be back on a streak again, so I think he should be fighting up the rankings a decent bit for his next fight. And my first preference for matchup really depends on what happens next week in the Arman Tsarukyan Dan Hooker match. I think it should be Dan Hooker if Dan Hooker loses next week, which I think is kind of probable. I think he is a pretty moderate underdog for this fight. I would say Arman Tsarukyan if he lost, but I think that would be a little too high up the rankings. I don't think Arman deserves an opponent as low as Benoit if he loses next week. And Hooker, I think, would just make a really fun scrap. Hooker's got an amazing chin, can take heaps of punishment, so Benoit can't get him out early. And Hooker's just one of the people who will just overwhelm you if you're not careful. It will be a really good test for Benoit Denis to see if he is top 5 worthy. If not Dan Hooker, if Dan Hooker wins next week, my second preference would be Mateusz Gamrot. I think this would be a really fun wrestling match. Benoit's wrestling is incredibly solid. He uses it in most of his fights just to absolutely control people on the floor, but Mateusz Gamrot is also an amazing wrestler, really technical, is able to grapple with the best, and he's also got a really good chin on him, so I can't see Benoit Denis putting him out quickly in their fight if they were to fight, and I think that would also be a pretty solid test. Rankings wise, it would make sense as well. So first option, Dan Hooker, but if Dan Hooker pulls off a win next week, I say give him Mateusz Gamrot. Moving on to the next fight, the loser, Leon Edwards. Really sad to see, man. He's on a bit of a skid within his career. It honestly looks like it is nearing the end for him. He lost to Bilal Muhammad, really bad loss. Got out wrestled the whole fight. Lost the belt off him, and then after that Sean Brady got absolutely dominating the wrestling again, controlled for pretty much the whole fight duration, and then submitted in the 3rd round. And against a striker in Carlos Prates, an area where Leon is the strongest, he got put out the minute the fight stayed on the feet. He did look good early on with the wrestling, took the back, not like he was going to submit Prates at any point, but it was the strongest moment in this fight. But the minute he chose to strike with Prates put his lights out cold. Scary knockout as well. That follow-up was very bad. Put him out cold. So the next fight for Leon definitely needs to be down the rankings quite a bit, near that bottom 15. And unfortunately for Leon, most of the bottom 15 are also on losing streaks or just recently lost. The only person who hasn't, and the next matchup for him, in my opinion, should be Gabriel Bonfim. And this is just mainly, Bonfim's not the biggest name, but I think this will be a really solid test to see if Leon Edwards still has it, or if it's sort of the final nail in the coffin for his career. Bonfim is really well-rounded. He got got a really good finish over Randy Brown as well recently. I mean, I think that sort of put his name on the radar for quite a few people. And while he isn't the biggest name, he's not like a legacy fighter within welterweight or anything like that. I think that's what Leon needs. Leon needs a real test to see if he can overcome these up-and-comers or if he will just continue to lose to pretty much anyone given to him now. So yeah, I think Bonfim is really the only option. I mean, there is Daniel Rodriguez as well, but I don't really like that one as much. So I say give Leon Edwards Gabriel Bonfim next, and we'll move on to the winner of this fight. Carlos Prates has been picking up some really good wins recently. Was the first one of the fighting nerds to lose in the UFC, but since then has come back 2 really nasty knockout wins. Ever since then, actually, everyone else in the fighting nerds have lost. Kari lost to Imavov, Ruffy lost to Saint Denis, Gene Silva lost to Diego Lopez. Prates is the only one who's racked up 2 wins this year, so very, very impressive performances from him recently, and his next opponent definitely should be up the rankings. He sort of has been putting himself in that title picture with this win, and I think his next matchup should be determined by the loser of next week's fight in Belal Muhammad versus Ian Gary. Now, I'd prefer Belal Muhammad. It just makes more sense because Ian Gary and Carlos Prates have already fought, and I think Belal Muhammad would be a good stepping stone for Prates. I mean, he definitely does need a wrestling challenge before he takes on the champ Islam, because I mean, if it turns out he has no takedown defense, it's going to be a very quick night for him. And I think Belal Muhammad is that good stepping stone. I think he is kind of a, not worse version, but just a less dominant version of Islam Makhachev. So if he can get past Belal Muhammad, I think he would stand a decent chance against Islam. That being said, the main event, but let's forget about that. But if Ian Gary loses, I honestly wouldn't be opposed to seeing a rematch between the two. I think they are kind of friends now, or they've gone close since that. I think they do sort of, or I don't know if they train together, but they're seen together chatting. It seems like they're friends, so maybe they wouldn't want to do that. But 6 months training camp for both of them would be pretty nice to see. See if that could sort of clean the record of Carlos Prates. But I get if he doesn't want to fight Ian Gary, so I guess if Ian Gary loses next week, give him a Sean Brady matchup. Sean Brady lost on this card, pretty bad loss. Another really solid wrestler with a decent striking game, so that's what I'm mainly looking for someone like Prates, who is pretty much a dependent striker. But yeah, my first option, Belal Muhammad, but if not that, maybe a Sean Brady or even Ian Gary. But yeah, moving on to the next fight, we have the loser, Sean Brady. Really didn't show much this fight. As a #1 contender, I think this really threw some questions in with how little he did in this fight. Got finished TKO by Morales. I mean, Morales could honestly be that amazing, but Brady didn't really show anything, so moved down the rankings, a lower ranked opponent. I think the next opponent for him should be Joaquin Buckley. I know Joaquin Buckley did lose to Kamaru Usman recently, but outside of that, he's picked up some really good wins, and there's not really many options in the welterweight sort of top 10 area for Brady after this, and I think Joaquin Buckley could bring a pretty good fight to Brady. He's pretty good on the floor. Buckley's pretty physical as well on the ground, so I don't think Sean Brady would have a complete easy time with that. Granted, I do think he is a better wrestler, but on the feet, I think Joaquin Buckley presents a similar striking threat, not to Morales, but just in terms of the power and the knockout. See if Brady can overcome that in the future. And like I said before, if you're not going to do that Buckley matchup, maybe do a Carlos Prates matchup, depending on what happens next week in the welterweight fight. But they're my two options. I think Joaquin Buckley first, and then if not Joaquin Buckley, maybe a Carlos Prates to put Prates' name in the top sort of 3 area. But yeah, we're going to have to see what happens next week, and we'll move on to the winner of this fight, Michael Morales. Absolute domination from Morales here. He looks like a beast when it comes to the striking, just his power, his relentlessness. Once he hurts you, he just chases you down, puts you away with these massive swinging shots. He's done it in most of his fights. Early on, not so much, but recently he's just been absolutely dominating people with the pressure. And the next matchup, someone's always got to go. Shavkat Rakhmonov, I think, is the next choice. I just really love the idea. They're both very similar records. I think 19-0 and 20-0, or something similar to that. But man, this would be a really, really solid contender fight. Morales definitely put his name into a contender spot with that Sean Brady win. Same with Prates as well. That's the only problem with the way these turned out. We've kind of got two people that equally deserve a title shot. But Rakhmonov, I think, is the next step for him. Rakhmonov's a boogeyman in the division, got through some of the best like Ian Gary, but if Michael Morales can pull off a win over Rakhmonov, he has definitely cemented his name in that title picture. Rakhmonov technically hasn't lost and hasn't, doesn't really have to fight down like this, but with his injuries and how long he's been out, I can't see him getting the next title shot over Islam. So I think next up for him should be a Michael Morales fight. Honestly, make this a #1 contender fight as well as a sort of Prates fight as well. Whoever has the best performances goes up against Islam next. So yeah, I think Shavkat Rakhmonov, just to see someone's go, because you can't really have these two power prospects in the top 5. One of them's got to drop down a little bit, and it would be just a really fun fight. Rakhmonov's very, very dangerous, so is Michael Morales. Definitely wouldn't go to a decision. So yeah, I say run this one up. Now onto the co-main event, the loser, Zhang Weili. It seemed like she just really struggled with the weight difference, and for that reason, I can't really see much of her at flyweight in the future. In this fight, just got absolutely out-physicaled by Shevchenko, just held down, taken down with ease. It seemed like just she couldn't quite compete with that heavier weight class. So next up for her, move her back down to strawweight and give her Mackenzie Dern for the title. Honestly, strawweight currently has a bit of an issue with contenders. They're in a bit of a drought. Everyone in the top 5's kind of in a losing streak. I think Tatiana Suarez is the only other option, but I don't really like the idea of her getting a title shot off and just one win after a loss for the title against Zhang Weili. So bring Zhang Weili down, give her Mackenzie Dern for the title. It's a fight that hasn't happened before, which is actually kind of crazy considering they've both been in the UFC for such a long time now. And honestly, it just more comes out of a necessity for Zhang. Like, I don't think Zhang Weili can compete at flyweight. I think she's way too small. She is pretty compact and muscular, but it seems like she just doesn't have the sort of frame for it. And honestly, I just kind of want to see Zhang Weili back in strawweight again and fighting these contenders, because she was very dominant, had an absolute dominant reign as the champ. And honestly, I could see Mackenzie Dern pulling off a win here on the ground. So not only is it just a win game for Zhang Weili if she gets the title back, but it could also potentially be a really good opportunity for Mackenzie Dern to sort of cement her status as the strawweight champion. So that's next for Zhang Weili. We'll move on to the winner of the co-main. Valentina Shevchenko dominated Zhang Weili, took her down, held her down every round. Even with the body kicks, was actually doing quite a bit of damage on the feet as well. A very dominant 50-45 win. And next up for her, there aren't really many other options outside Natalia Silva, and I think Silva has earned it with a win over Alexa Grasso. Absolutely beat up on Grasso at UFC 315. I thought earned her title shot off of that. They announced Zhang Weili versus Shevchenko. I understand how that takes priority with it being a super fight, but now that that's done with, Shevchenko's next opponent should be Natalia Silva. She's looked completely dominant throughout her career, racked up some really, really nice wins, has some really, really solid striking, especially with her kicks as well. She'll be able to keep Shevchenko at range, won't really be able to get off as much wrestling in this fight from Shevchenko, I don't think. And for Shevchenko, not many other contenders outside of Erin Blanchfield, who also won on this card, but I think she has another fight before title picture. I think Natalia Silva is the next option for her. So next up for Shevchenko, give her a Natalia Silva, and we'll move on to the main event. Now onto the main event, the loser, Jack Della Maddalena, got separated from his belt this event. Really sad to see, honestly. I mean, as a champion at welterweight, if your first defense is Islam Makhachev, that's a really rough go of things. And while there was a lot of hype leading into this Craig Jones, he'd be able to defend the takedowns. I mean, he looked really good on the ground against Belal Muhammad, so there was that sort of insight there for this fight. But man, he just got held down 5 rounds. It honestly seemed like Islam was the bigger fighter, weight class wise. Now, they were probably even when it came to the weigh-ins and of the night. But yeah, it seemed like Jack Della just really struggled with the physicality of Islam. Also appeared like he did get injured. He was constantly wincing throughout the fight, but a pretty bad loss from him nonetheless. I think it was 50-45, Islam Makhachev. So next up for him, I think Kamaru Usman. Usman's working his way up. In fact, he is kind of in that title picture after that win over Buckley, and it was kind of hinted at in the broadcast that he was one of those contenders. I don't think he's there yet. Give him one more fight. He sat out for so long, got a win over Buckley. I don't think that entitles you to a title shot yet. Especially against Islam Makhachev. I think you kind of need to earn that if you're going to go up against Islam. Build your own resume before you go up against one of the GOATs, so, you know, if you lose, it's not really a zero-sum game for Islam. So, yeah, I think Jack Della Maddalena, Kamaru Usman next. I think this would be a really fun striking match. It will give Della a chance to work on his wrestling as well, with Usman having some really nice takedowns and some really nice wrestling. But on the feet as well, he could work away. It kind of reminds me a bit of a Leon Edwards matchup when it comes to Jack Della's style. Della's a bit more scrappy though, so I think that would give Usman a few problems. And if Usman can get a win over Jack Della Maddalena, I think that also puts his name into that #1 title picture with, you know, Morales and Prates. It's currently a bit logjam, so I think this is a way to clear it up. A very manageable, approachable fight for both of these fighters. And we'll move on to the winner of the main event, Islam Makhachev. Absolute domination in the main event. Not the most exciting, just a lot of wrestling. It was kind of one of his less exciting fights. Islam can be really entertaining. Poirier fight, incredibly entertaining. Moicano fight, I mean, that was just domination. But even Volk fight, incredibly entertaining. This one wasn't as much, but either way, separated JDM from its belt. Double champ status. Is the GOAT? I say question mark after that, because there are people like Merab and Ilya also going on insanely dominant runs within their division. Look, absolutely unstoppable. Hamza as well just now started that. I wouldn't quite put him up there yet, but I do think Islam is currently the GOAT of the UFC currently, if not all time. We're going to have to see, though, how this ages, but yeah, double champ status, took the belt off JDM. Next up for him, it's kind of hard to tell because Carlos Prates put his name up there, Michael Morales put his name up there, but I think the most realistic one is going to be the winner of next week, and I think more realistic will be if Ian Garry wins next week. Now, Belal Muhammad could win next week, but I don't think he will go for the title shot because they are friends, Islam and Belal. They trade together. In fact, Islam wasn't going to move up to welterweight until Belal Muhammad stopped being champion, so I can't see why Belal Muhammad wouldn't try and reciprocate that and not really try and take the belt off Islam. Could happen, but I doubt it. So if Ian Garry wins next week, I think he will be the next up for the title shot against Islam. Could be a really fun fight. Ian Garry's been working on his BJJ in Brazil with Charles Oliveira. I'd say that it's actually matched his striking in terms of skillfulness now. I think he is one of the better well-rounded welterweights at the moment. Incredibly technical, has insane fight knowledge, IQ when it comes to sort of breaking down his opponent's movesets and finding weaknesses in their games. And that could work out against Islam. I doubt it. I think Islam is going to be too dominant. Will just hold Ian Garry down for 5 rounds, but who knows? Could be a really fun fight. If Belal Muhammad wins next week, I don't see him fighting Islam, so I think the next one, and I still think this is also really unlikely, but it's a fight I think everyone wants to see. Ilya to Poirier. Islam wanted the White House card. Islam versus Ilya for the White House main event would be absolutely massive. It would determine the GOAT currently within UFC, if not all time UFC, the winner of that. For Ilya, I don't know if it's possible though. He moved up to lightweight. It took maybe, I think, 9-10 months to really make himself lightweight ready. Welterweight's a bigger move up. I don't know if he's going to be able to get ready for a White House card and be sort of the desired weight that he wants to be at that weight class. But, you know, this would be an insane super fight. If they can make it happen, I mean, make it happen. It's one of the biggest fights you can make at the moment. And for Islam, if he beats Ilya, there's no question about it. He is the GOAT. He's had the best run in the UFC. But yeah, I don't know if it will happen. It would be cool if it does. So first option, Ian Garry. Potentially Ilya, but we're going to have to see with that one. So that's it, guys. Those are all my future matchups for the fighters on the main card of UFC 322. Right now on the screen is just a compilation of all the matchups I've made in this video. What do you guys think? What matchups do you think are next for these fighters? There's honestly so many options, especially at welterweight now. So, you know, please leave those in the comments. I'm really excited to see what you guys think should be next for these fighters. Yeah, I'll see you guys next week for UFC Fight Night. Sarukian versus Hooker. Amazing card for a fight night. I mean, it is in Abu Dhabi, so they typically stack those. But yeah, really excited for that one. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.